Real JP Multimedia, proud sponsor of the Nerdball podcast. Here to help you with all things audio, video, graphics, photo, web design. From weddings to real estate, commercial business to private use, we offer a big variety of services for almost any budget. And if we can't do it, we will find someone who can. Find us at realjp.com. That's REELJP.com. Real JP Multimedia.
Thank you, everyone, for downloading Three Different Dads, a podcast where us dads talk about dad stuff. We have a special guest dad, soon-to-be dad, I guess. Again, like you said before the podcast, depending on your state that you live in. George Smith. George, thanks for coming on the Dad Podcast.
Oh, man, thanks for having me on your podcast. I love your podcast, man.
Oh, well, thank you.
I listen all the time, yeah.
Yeah, that's great, because no one ever says that. So
I do, man. And Russ Courtney, I think, was a guest that I was listening to. I can't remember exactly the way you worded it, but you're a really good host. You ask questions out of like a place of curiosity. It doesn't seem like you listen to some like that. God, who's that Jordan? What the hell's that guy's name? Justin Long. He has a podcast.
Yeah. And
like you could tell he's got all the questions written down, and he's like, what inspired you? He's like, well, my dad, until he almost killed a guy, and the guy's like, where'd you go to school? You're like, you're not going to ask about the fucking other things? Well, I guess I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Speaking too loosely. But,
no, you're good. You're good.
You're great. It's a great show. You're a great host, man.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I learned because I think what helps is that people I have on my other podcast are like people I know. So they'll like come out basically like, hey, what were you writing down there? I'm like, oh, that's distracting. So I shouldn't like be writing stuff as I'm talking to people. So like I learned pretty quickly, like just if you're gonna miss some stuff, but also you're gonna pick on some stuff because you don't have a laundry list of questions to get to.
Yeah. Right on.
So thanks for coming on Three Different Dads. Tyler is not here because he wrote down on his calendar wrong. If that's not a dad thing, I don't know what is. So I am constantly putting stuff on my or putting it on the wrong calendar. I tell Andrea, hey, I have it on my calendar. She goes, yeah, but not on the fridge calendar. I'm like, oh, so now I got to write stuff in like 3 different places.
I just write ambiguous words in that yellow notepad on iPhone that like then I pull it up later and it's like gophers, and that I'm like, okay, well, gotta remember to do that. Yeah.
We have a family Google calendar, and then we also have a whiteboard calendar when you walk into the house. So and I still screw things up. Like I still have to ask, like, wait, what day is this happening? So
yeah, we have a calendar. It's called Cozy. It's Cozy app, and it goes out to my in-laws and my parents, so they know where the kids are going to be and what they're doing, so they can come watch. And of all the ones I forget to update, it's that one. So my dad one time was at a ball field, like, where are you guys at? I'm like, oh yeah, that game got canceled 2 weeks ago. Sorry.
So in the position you guys are in, how much of a calendar at your place in fatherhood is stuff that like obligations that are related strictly to you? And how much is it like family stuff that you have to be doing for somebody else?
Oh, I mean, it's majority like stuff going on with the girls, right? Like I don't have enough stuff, I guess, outside of that right now, where it's like, aside from like a doctor's appointment or going to the dentist or something stupid like that I'll forget. But I use my work calendar for everything now. Like, I don't even give a shit if it's public, like, and everybody sees like, oh, my kids have a dance recital this weekend, like whatever, because that's what I get alerts to my phone. So I just kind of take that over, and for me, I need to have something like that where it's like one place. Or
so Lorenzo, we're gonna start adding stuff to Jimmy's work calendar, knowing that it's a public facing calendar. I'm just gonna start inviting you to some weird shit.
Yeah, I'll show up.
Macaulay Culkin autograph signing.
Yeah,
in Texas.
Be like, okay.
Yeah, that's the same way for me too. Like I, as far as our calendar, it's all kids stuff, and then And then on my personal calendar, I have all my stuff. Like on our fridge calendar, there's a little bit of my stuff just so Andrew's aware of where I'm going to be, like football stuff in the summer, any meetings, any coaching meetings or anything usually end up on that calendar so she knows. But I also have a work calendar, but I have a work phone, but it's only work stuff. So that's what sucks too, is I have to have two phones on me all the time. Because
Like a boss.
Oh, I do not like it. I wish it would only be one phone. But I have to, and it sucks to be like having to manage two calendars and look at that stuff. But
I will say, like, when I have a big thing coming up, like our guys trip or whatever it was, like that goes on a million different calendars, like right away. Everybody needs to know, like,
how cool you are.
This is happening 6 months from now or a year from now. We're cool with that. Yep. And then it's I do the little reminders just to cover myself. But no, like even this, I know it's in the mornings on Sundays. So typically I have nothing going on at all. So I got a message from Lorenzo last night being like, "Hey, you ready to go?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do this." Like, it's been a little bit. I'm ready to record. Let's do it. So
at what age would you say it transitions from, your parents with this cool little new accessory that you could take to do like fun things, and to like the point that it's now like, okay, now they've got like it's independent. I no longer have any time for myself. I've kind of lost the autonomy and freedom.
I feel like that happened as soon as one kid doing something is fine. Then we can all make it whatever. It's not, it's like once a week or something. But once they both started doing stuff, not just like in one season, but year round, then it's like, well, we got to try to fit something in for ourselves every once in a while, because Mateo this summer, between practices and games, he might have baseball 4 times a week. And then Lillian had 2 or 3 times a week for softball. And then on top of her baton, and she got out of gymnastics for the summer because it was just too busy, but like just stuff all the time. And so you try to fit stuff in. And for me, I like doing work around the house or the yard. So that's just like, hey, I gotta mow the lawn. I got an hour. I can at least do the front yard. So it's just trying to be really good at, people always make the dad jokes. So like, hey, I'm going to pack the car because I got to Tetris this thing in there. And that's the same thing with time. Like I got to figure out time because all this other stuff is already taking the most of it.
Do you remember asking your dad to kill the mower? Like what you asked, whatever you were going to ask him, you couldn't just be like, how do you turn the microwave on again? Like he like pulls out the earplugs and like, and everything. And he's like, what? And you're just like, can I go to Brian's house? Like, like you better have something important to say. So like, you're kind of invincible in that moment. You're like, they're not going to ask you to come kill the mower over nothing.
Dude. That's so funny you say that because that happened yesterday. Lillian did it 3 times.
Okay. All right. Yes. You have my attention. Yeah.
Dude. So my father-in-law has been in the hospital. He's okay. He's hopefully coming back today. So I had to mow. I was mowing his yard. Mateo was mowing our yard, and the elderly couple next door, I mowed their yard. So I took his riding lawnmower. So for mine, it's just a push mower. I just got to let go and it shuts off. But for that one, I gotta turn the PTO off, bring it down in gear, put my foot on a brake, turn it off, take my earbuds out. What? Can I pick raspberries? Yeah, just go pick.
Do you live in a John Steinbeck novel? What do you? That's what your kids stop you to ask to do. That's amazing.
And it's Dad. Yeah. Can I get a snack? Like, Mom's inside, right?
Yeah, like, or write it down on a piece of paper and just come hand it to me. Be like, yeah, you're good. Go pick raspberries.
She does that to Andrea when Andrea has to work from home and she's on work calls. Like she'll hand her horribly misspelled notes and like, so she has to decipher this. She's like, yeah. So with the quarterly meeting coming up, we have to. The quarter, like, it's just like,
yeah.
Can't imagine. Yeah,
and it just says, "Can I?"
Yeah,
sure.
I need more. I need more.
Yeah. So no, they always do that, and it's just it scares me too because they're like, "Dad," I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay, sorry.
Right.
Wow.
Well,
can I have ice cream? Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, good for you.
Oh.
You got better patience than our dads, I guess.
I mean, I could say I don't handle it very well when it's the third time, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then you feel bad. Then I'm mowing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a horrible person right now.
Then you realize you're just like 3 blocks down, just zoned out, like driving up.
Doing every neighbor's yard. What's going on? Wait.
Yeah.
It is fun to be on a riding lawnmower though, as opposed to walking behind one. So I take advantage of that whenever I can.
So the most dad, we just bought a house.
Yeah.
And just so happens to coincide with when we got this baby coming. And I've never thought I would be this person. I never thought I would like live this problem. But I've got this war going on with gophers now. Like, I never, my parents would be like, oh, we got moles. And I'm like, who gives a shit? Just like mow the grass and just there'll be stripes or whatever. But dude, I've tried everything with these gophers. And I woke up this morning and I had like put these like solar powered things that vibrate the ground and make a buzz every like 30 seconds to scare them off or whatever. And there's just like holes all around that exact thing. Like they just, so I just, these are things that you conversations you'd hear your parents having when they came to like pick you up at a friend's house, and you'd be like, so boring. Who cares? And now it's starting to become my life.
Dude, I feel like once you have a house and then like kids, it's just like a constant state of just like, you just want everything to be like a normalcy. And then when you have that like one-off thing where it could be like, for us, it's like ant piles, right? Like we have fire ants and all this other shit. And it's like, and that's the type of stuff where I'm like, now when I wake up, I go into the backyard and look. Like, what am I like?
First thing.
What am I doing with like? And that's the type of shit where it's like, oh, it's midnight and I'm on my phone Googling. It's like how to get rid of this random shit, and it's just like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now. This is life.
I paid for an app to identify plants.
Yeah,
I paid for it, but yeah.
Even though one of your good friends like knows all about plants and stuff, it's crazy.
That's true. Yeah, but this is definitely a different climate.
I know. I just
climate 9, or I think.
I think for dads, the yard thing is such a big deal, because that's in your life. That's the one thing you can control at right now. Like
apparently I can't.
No.
Well, I'm just saying like you have no control of like what your kids are involved in, where they got to be. You have to do all that stuff. But the lawn is like, yeah, I can do this. And yes, you have moles, but you're still trying to control it. Like you're still like invested in it, because like, no, I want this to look good. I want,
well, like Jimmy said, I think it's more like I'm trying to work on all these other things, but now I've got this other independent variable that I didn't anticipate that's bugging me. So I get hyper focused on that thing. And now I'm watching different like YouTube videos, like you said, about like ways to get rid of them. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. Good. Finish up.
Well, so Brittany asked me, my wife asked me, she's like, well, at what point do you think you'll get, because it's an old house that we got, it's from 56 or something. She's like, what point do you think the projects will be like over and you'll be like, I'm done? And I was like, never. Yeah, never. It hit me at the time that I said it. But sorry, Jimmy, I cut you off now.
Oh, no, I was just gonna on controlling the yard stuff, man. So Lorenzo helped me. I had to put in all new landscaping and like flowers and doing all this stuff. Sent him some pictures of stuff. It's been like 105 plus for like, I don't know. You look at the 10-day forecast and it's just like hot all the time. No rain, nothing. So I'm starting to lose my plants, and I'm watering daily, and they're just going. And we made a significant investment in like all these new plants, and they are just going brown right now. And it's just like, what the hell am I supposed to do? And the roots just aren't long enough. And it's just like, I don't know. I look outside my office,
losing battle.
It's just, I'm just staring at these plants that are dying, and it's the most like disheartening thing that I'm just like, I don't know what else to do right now. And so, that's that's what I'm also fighting right now, is dying flowers. So,
And it stinks because you're like, man, like you said, you put all this money into it and you're just like, well, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. It's like kids, like, hey, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, and they're still like that.
Well, see, now that the analogy's screwed, because I was gonna say with plants, it seems like sometimes the more you try to save them, like the faster they die. Like,
Yeah.
like you put more. And so when you said it's like kids, I'm like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that analogy carries over. Now it's 4.
That is a
Now it's
giant
4.
cat.
Yeah, her dad's a Maine Coon, which is
Oh,
the
yeah.
biggest
Yeah.
breed. Yeah.
With
He works at the mill down the road. we grab beer sometimes.
So with your moles, have you
Gophers.
not? Oh, sorry. Are they? Why do you get kill traps? Why do you get kill traps?
Oh, I do, dude.
Okay.
And that wasn't like an immediate solution. It wasn't something I was proud of. But my wife was just like, dude, if you put the rodent in the house, you'd be open to killing them, no problem. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually okay. I feel a lot better about that. Mammals it's hard to, I do spearfishing, but mammals are like a weird thing to kill for me. But they're outsmarting the traps. But long story short,
do they have? I'm just trying to figure out, because people use a lot of we have moles and we have groundhogs. So when you say gophers, I don't know what that is. Is it?
Yeah, it's like a small groundhog.
Okay, so are they rooting? Are they like going through your grass, or are they just like have one den?
No, they come out in multiple different points because they're strictly vegetarian. So they come out, they just bite a little bit of grass around the hole. So they'll eat all kind of like the grass around the hole, and they'll like kind of plug up the spot that they were in and go back down and come in out another spot to get like more grass. So they probably have one den, but they come up in multiple spots to eat the grass in that area. This is the worst podcast episode.
No,
it's just about
gophers. I said it
on other podcasts.
No, I said on other podcasts before, like, I don't give a shit. I want to know. I'm interested in stuff. So if people aren't, screw them, because this is what I'm talking about.
Well, so my buddy said, he goes, flood it, right? And so I look it up and they're like, don't flood it. Like the chances that you're going to drown this thing are so small, you're probably going to actually just soften the ground. And if they've eaten through there enough, like making it soft, like, you could kind of like really collapse your ground significantly. So don't do that. Other people are like, run an exhaust, like a tractor, put a hose in there, put that down there and like run the exhaust into your ground for a while. But I mean, we're about to grow vegetables in this garden out there for my daughter's baby food. I'm not going to like nuke the ground. So I don't want to put in poisons. And I think poisoning animals is crazy, but like you can only get certain traps in California. I've tried to order some on Amazon. And they're like, you can't have this one out there. It like shoots them in the face with a, I don't know, a picture of themselves. But the ones that I can get, they're outsmarting. Like they'll literally like, you put one on the end of the tunnel, and it looks like the natural end of a tunnel. There's like a little hole in the end. So they want to go up and they want to plug up the sunlight. Like they're at places that something could come in. And so they crawl up into your, the trap, but they'll literally go to the edge of the trap and they just fill it with dirt. And they're like, no, we know that's not the end of our tunnel. That's a trap.
And this might just be stupid, but like, those like super heavy rolling balls that they have in yards?
Yeah.
Can you just like do that? Like, would that smush them?
No, because they're way down. They're way down. Yeah, and my dad made the best point of all, though. He was just like, are they in all your neighbors' yards? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, dude, doesn't really matter how many you kill. You're not going to get them. Like, and so I was just like, yeah, no, that's true. But that's gophers.
Gopher talk. When we started this podcast, when we started this stupid podcast, you said that you're like, oh, I got a dad thing. Did we?
That's it.
Did we talk about it? Okay.
Yeah, it was gophers.
Oh, great. So I was waiting for this cool dad thing, and that's what it was.
Well, I do have a question for you guys that I really value, because this is my biggest dad concern right now from where I am in the process. Like, we're at 8 months, and if we could just wake up tomorrow and the baby would just like be in her little bassinet there, I'd be like, and we're at home. Yeah. I'd be like, cool. I would be nothing but excited.
Yeah.
But the hospital experience, I just took a course through our hospital about like what to expect in the birthing process. Arguably came out of that way more nervous than I was going in, now that I know so much more about what I'm in for. But obviously I know that like whatever I'm about to experience is, just magical. Such like but of course a positive thing, but like a minute bother compared to what she's about to go through. I know comparatively, I have nothing to complain about. But it is like,
Well,
I feel like having no control over the well-being of the two most important people in your life. You're just sitting there and like hoping it goes well and watching one of them really be like miserable. It sounds pretty terrifying. And I value any advice or what your experiences have been like.
For me, the most terrifying part of all of it, because like I don't like your doctors and everything beforehand are like, if everything looks good and like you kind of know like, okay, this is going to be normal, whatever, from that standpoint. For me, like the nerve-wracking part was the like, okay, now it's like hearing test. Now it's like they do all these tests right after the kid's born, and it's just like these tests, like more than likely they're going to be like everything's going to be great and fine, but it's like at that point you're just like, in my head, it's just like, oh shit. Like at this point, like this could be like a major game change, right? Like if your kid's deaf, like you're just you'll roll with it, but that's a major thing. Like you're just like, oh shit. Like, and it's like those little things at the end of it, where the part where it's like, okay, we got through the scare, like the big parts, the birthing and all that type of stuff. But it's like, okay, now once the kid's here, you're not like, for me at least, it wasn't like you're free and clear and just like out, like, hey, we're all hanging out now. Now it's like, now we have to do all these additional tests just to make sure everything's good. And I'm sure it will be fine. But it's just like in that time period, we're just like, oh shit, it just reminds you of those like things. And like for me, that was the part where I was always just like the two times where I was more nervous for those things than I was the actual like birth part, because
That's true.
the doctors and everything was just very like, everything looks good, like, all that type of stuff. So I felt very like, okay,
they got it.
Professionals, like everything else. But this is something like we can't, like, no one can control at that point, right? Like it's just like, it is what it is, and we'll figure it out from there. But for me, that was the most nerve-wracking part of the whole delivery part.
I was looking at George, and George's like, oh my God, I haven't even thought of that.
It's a really good point, though. I mean, any one of those answers could totally like change what you anticipated to be your parenting experience, or like, that's true. I know Jane isn't deaf because I talk to my wife's belly all the time, and she just starts going like nuts and bongoing like where my face is. So that I think we're good there. But you're right. I mean, there's a million other answers that could really be like, changes everything.
Yeah. For me, my mom and her mom were both in the room, and for me, it was just the complete, the feeling of just helplessness. Like I'm just like, my sole job here today is when they say, "Hey, Dad, do you want to see the baby coming out?" Like that's it. Then like get some ice chips. It's just like you can't do anything. You can't, and especially because I'm not gonna move my mom, or I'm not gonna move her mom. Like they've been through it. They're helping her. I'll hold a hand. Maybe that's about it. But it's just like the fact that I can't do anything. And for me, like I want to help. Like I want to help everybody all the time, and to be in there, to be like, a cheerleader is very difficult. Very difficult to, I did my part 9 months ago, and then that's it. Like I think
a cheerleader. That's true. I mean, that's basically the best you can do is like try to stay positive.
To prove how little we do, when my daughter was born, I go to the hospital. I feel like complete shit. And the doctor's like, you look terrible. And like, we went past the due date. So it was like, hey, you're going to have the kid on this date now, essentially. So we went to the hospital early morning. Like, I'm feeling terrible. Get there. They're like, you look like shit. I was like, can you guys give me anything? And they're like, no, but you can go to your doctor. We still have some hours. I had the flu. And they tested me, like me for the flu. And I was just like, oh shit. Like, then I started freaking out, like I'm going to miss my kid's birth, like all this type of stuff. So my doctor got with her doctor, and they're like, basically, they injected me with cortisone shot, and they were just like, you can wear a mask. You have to wash your hands every like 30 seconds, essentially. And then once the kid's born and you see her, like, then you need to dip out. And so they brought me in right as my wife's like starting to give birth, and then it's like I was in, held the kid, hung out for a minute, and then dipped out. But yeah, my wife still gives me shit for that all the time. But make sure you get your flu shot.
You weren't hungover when you.
I know. It's all like,
Well, the thing, like, before I moved to Texas, I never got like sick. I never really got the flu. Like, I don't know if it's just because I wasn't around a ton of people like you are in bigger cities, but like then being here, like I'd get strep. And then like my wife's like, make sure you get your flu shot, all this stuff. And I'm like, nah, whatever. I'm past, like, it's past flu season. It's February, March time now. But no, I got it. And because she told me to get the flu shot and I didn't, like, that was a big cause of contention. And then yeah, so now every year it's like I need to get the flu shot, I need to get all this type of stuff. But no, it's that was crazy.
well, you know, the reason
That
you
sucks.
get sick more is because you have germ riddled kids running around your home. I've never been more sick in my life than after I had kids. I've never had pink eye as a kid. I got pink eye because my kids had it. Like
They're gross, man.
Yes,
Kids are
kids are
disgusting,
gross.
especially like that. Like 5 to 8. I worked 1 year in an elementary school, and the first grade classroom specifically, so that age group specifically, like 6, 7, are absolute monsters, man. It's just, I mean, you went in there, they're all farting, they're all picking their nose. There's no shame, and no one's ever just like, oh, well, I better wash my hands. It's just like, oh, well, there's, and just on with your day.
like
My
yesterday.
daughter, I caught my 5-year-old yesterday, and she's just like,
Yeah.
and then we lock eyes, and she just like, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's a power move. She's like,
Yeah.
what? Stop me.
We were in a car. We were in a car yesterday. We were dropping Lillian off somewhere with a friend, and she's like, "Do you have a napkin? I gotta blow my nose." And I was like, "No, I don't have anything. You'll have to ask when you get to Hadley's house." She's like, "All right." Matea's like, "Just use your arm." I'm like, "God." He's like,
And
"Yeah,
if you
just
would have
go."
been there to intervene, she would have been like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
nature's napkin.
Why didn't I think of that? Yeah.
They are gross, and it doesn't get any better. I coach high school boys, and they're just as, I've never seen so many.
They're gross in a
rackets.
different way. They're consciously gross. Like,
But
you know,
yeah,
they're choosing to be gross.
I just the grossness never leaves.
No, but you know what? The part though that low key grossed me out the most, like the most unexpected thing, is that, you know, the kindergartners and first graders, whether they can tie their shoes or not is kind of like hit or miss. You know, it depends on the kid. So they're asking you to tie their shoes all the time, and not that many of them. All of their shoelaces are soaking wet, 100%. And so every time I test them, I'm like, why are these soaking wet? And every answer is gross. So,
I was coaching a flag football team with kindergartners or first grade. I was like, it was this little girl. She always showed up late. She was always dirty. And she's like, "Coach, can you tie my shoes?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they were sticky with syrup. I'm like, how do you have syrup on your shoes right now?
Yeah, man, they're gross. But so do you? So any advice though for the hospital situation as guys that have gone through it multiple times?
I if people ever ask, I always just say, be ready. I can't say be ready for anything, but be ready for whatever your wife needs. Like, I don't understand, and I've seen in her like how people are just, her dads are just like on their phone or sitting in a chair or at the very least stand by her side, hold her hand, and whatever she needs, you know, get that thing, you know, or just be ready for her.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. Like, I would for sure, I mean, whatever your wife wants, right? Like, everyone's different. Like, we wanted no one in the like, it was just her and I for the birth.
We're doing
right?
that same thing,
yeah. And so it was just like, I will say, like, if you have like an eye mask or something, like a mask that you can put on for your, like, when you sleep, because when you are sleeping there, they're coming in constantly to like just check on stuff, and you're not going to get any sleep when you're at the hospital. Just like,
yeah, that I've accepted that basically. But
yeah. So I mean, it's just like, I will say, like, for us, we played a ton of like Phase 10, like the card game. which it's a long game when there's two people, but you have a lot of time to kill. And it's one of those where it's like you can keep your mind just occupied with something stupid, and just do that. And we just kind of talked and just did that type of thing. So I would say like find something where you both can like be together doing something, but then also just like just think kind of that you don't have to think about, right? And just kind of have you and her time. So
yeah, that's good advice.
Also watch your baby come out. I think it's Jim, no, but I watched both our kids being born, and it is it's not for everyone, and it's obviously it's gross, it's a medical thing, but I'm glad I did. And you like, for me, I see like you can understand the pain that they're going through. You can try to empathize with them, you can see it on their face, but then you can see what it's doing. Like you're going through all this work so you can have our baby. Like to me, it was like, man, I'm glad I saw it. And I just see like, I see Andrea differently at the time. Like, man, this is what you did. And it's, it's awesome. Like it's scary too. But that's what I recommend. Jim, maybe not, but that's what I recommend.
I just know myself. And in that situation, like, that's just not something I stayed
up at the head,
like
at her head.
You and I.
Yeah.
Let's.
I don't think I'm gonna ask Brittany. I think I don't think she wants me down.
I asked.
So I'm gonna do what she wants, whatever she says, and that'll get me off the hook of having to make the decision. So that's the win. But it is. I mean, I've seen videos. They showed us one just in that class, just to kind of like see the way that like everything has to go through in one exact perfect spinning rotation. And like you said, I mean, it's fascinating and it's amazing, but it's also like it's medical and it's like you can't help but your reactions to it. But
just don't throw up.
So let me ask George this question here. Like in the first like month, what are you most looking forward to in terms of like in your mind, like how you think child like everything?
So I mean, as simple as it sounds, seeing her is probably just like so huge because I have all these like pictures. I'll go down wormholes on YouTube of just like babies doing things, like babies eating a lemon, for the first time, and like or just like little things like that. And like sometimes the babies will pop up and be like, I wonder if our kid would look like that. Like trying to envision like what it'll be like together. And I know she's in there. You can interact through the belly, so like trying to picture like exactly what she's going to look like, even though all kids kind of like look like weird little Yodas when they come out, and you don't really see like the full scope of the personality for a couple months. But so I think, that is like my number one. And I think getting home and just kind of that feeling of being like, in the beginning there was 3 months of concern of like, we don't want to lose it. We don't want to lose the pregnancy. And then there's other, you start going to appointments. You're like, I want to hear that everything's on pace, right? And she's healthy and the heart rate's there and the size is correct. And then, now that there's this hospital thing and all the drama around that and telling people we wanted to be by ourselves and having to like have those battles. And so like, and then going through that. So I think, to also just get home and be like, we did it, we're home and the family's here. And, I think that's going to be a really great feeling.
That was always like when you're at the hospital, you have these people like, okay, it's time to feed the baby. It's this, that. And then you get home and it's just you two. It's good and bad, especially being first-time parents. Like the whole rush, because we had everyone, like I said, our moms were in there, and then people come to the hospital, see Mateo, and and then we get home and it's like too quiet, and we don't like there's no one here, and we I don't think we wanted to have people over for a while because we wanted to be just us two to try to figure this out, and then like people giving you all kinds of advice all the time, do this, no, don't do that, like just contradictory stuff, and you just got to figure it out on your own. But the best part of it is that when it's just you two and Jane, like you get to just like, all right, now how are we gonna do this day, because other people do it differently, but you guys get to decide how you want to do it.
Well, and I did say the way home, like I know I'm gonna be like, dude, that's it. Like we just go. No one's coming with us.
Yeah.
But I told her, I go, no, I will never be a worse driver in my life than I will be on that drive home, because like I feel like I'll be driving at a level of consciousness that like kind of the natural like rhythm of driving goes away. When you're driving scared, that I'll be like, oh
You're a
my
new
gosh,
driver again.
like yeah. I was like, so that drive is gonna be scary because I'm just gonna be like, just get me safely home.
I think I asked Andrea, like, should I take the highway or go through the city? Like, I was so concerned.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that, and then I was just like, dude, city's more likely to be accident prone,
Yeah.
So I guess highway, but it's scary. But Jimmy, what was of the first 30 days? What was your highlight? Like, what do you think the highlight?
Kind of what you guys are saying. Like the biggest thing was like, and it sounds crazy because we're all saying the same thing, but like actually, like getting the kid out of the car, not even out of the car seat, like in the car seat itself, and like putting her on the kitchen table inside the thing, and like, okay, it's just my wife and I here at the house, and now we have this other person in there, and it's just like, holy shit. Because as much as like we want to help out and do stuff, like I feel like the first month or two, it's a lot of baby mom time, and so it's like you take it where you can get it and do like, have him chilling on the chest, give mom a break, do all that type of stuff. But that to me was like, I just remember that clear as day, like taking her out of the car seat, like in the basket or whatever the hell the thing is, putting that on the table, and then just being like, oh shit. And like, fortunately, my wife is very much like a planner, and like, she's like, okay, now we need to make sure at like 3:00 now, like I'm going to make sure I start to feed, like do all that, like had a schedule and had things pretty well lined up,
That's
which made
big,
things so much easier. Because if you can get a schedule, like get those different things going, like I just feel like it becomes so much more of a routine. And then it's like that weirdness of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like the routine kind of kicks in, and it's like, okay, this is what we do at this time, this is what we're doing here. And to like Lorenzo's point, like if you do have the ability to just have like time with the three of you at the beginning at your house without having people coming, that I think is huge. And then like with all of our kids, it was very much like the first week is our time. Then after that, like if grandma wants to come and stay, excuse me, for like a few days and help out and do that stuff, great, and see the baby. But first, like we want to get into this, like our routine, because it is just everything just changes 180 degrees from what you're used to doing. Like the gopher thing, you won't really give a shit about that. All right. Like
I can see that.
like
what if I'm just like, no, I'm still like, I'll be in a minute.
So like doing
Yeah.
that type of thing and it is huge. And so but it's awesome, man.
Routine has been an echoing sentiment in the advice I've been given, like how critical routine is. But we are pushing for, like, we've said that we want those 2 weeks in the beginning, and somebody made a point to us that we like this. Like, you can always, if things are going so great, like you can always call people in sooner, right? Hey, everyone will be excited to get that call. Hey, actually, we're settled, we're good. Why don't you come like this afternoon? But like you can't. But if you don't have that space and you want it, it's much harder to like push people out. So
and I will say too, and like everybody's different, but like it was nice, like preparing. My wife's a preparer, so like we had frozen meals like ready to go in the freezer that you just pop in the oven, right? And like her and her mom like got together like the week before the baby and just like meal prepped a bunch of things in the freezer. Not that I could have easily just made dinner or whatever, but it was just like it was nice to just kind of have these things ready to go, because it's weird looking back on it, especially having like two kids now. Cause at that point, like once you have the first kid, you're just like, holy shit, like how did I ever, like my world's completely upside down. And then you have like another kid and you're just like, oh man, that didn't seem as bad. Like, with all that free time, but it's just like going from you being 100% in control of your time to now it's like, you're on the baby's time. And it's just like, oh shit, like that takes a little bit of an adjustment for sure.
Yeah.
I always tell new dads too, regardless if you're bottle feeding or breastfeeding, every time the baby needs to be fed, I got up every time. Like we ended up doing bottles after a while. But even when Andrea got up, I got up, especially at the beginning. Even if it's just to get up, Andrea has Mateo on the couch. I'm warming up a bottle, and then I just sit and fall asleep next to her on the couch. At least, like if something's going on or something went wrong, she doesn't have to scream my name. I'm right there. She can just be, "Hey, Lorenzo, can you? I dropped the binky, or I need a towel, or whatever." I was always there. And then as we get, especially at the beginning, but as he got older and the schedule, there was less feedings at night. Then we would take turns and stuff. But at the beginning, I didn't want to like miss anything. Like I always felt like, hey, I want to be a part of everything, because like Jim said, like it is a lot of mom and baby. So even if I can just be there again for just support, to be like, hey, can you get this thing real quick for me? But
I have a feeling I'll do that because I'm such a light sleeper as it is, that like if the dog needs to go out in the middle of the night and Brittany gets out of bed to go like let the dog out, I'm awake the whole time, like waiting to like hear like, okay, is everything all right? Like, is there a coyote out? Like stuff, like all kinds of until like everyone's back anyway. So I'm like, I think it'd be the same thing, especially early on, that I'm gonna be worried. So if like I'm just gonna be sitting there kind of like half listening, why not just go be a part of it?
I will say too, like once the kid gets a little bit older and like, only maybe one feeding in the middle of the night or whatever, and it doesn't have to be maybe with mom. And so it's like, for us, it worked really well too. Like just being like my night, your night type of a thing. And not like we had some people where it was like every other, like I'll get up this one, then you get up the next one type of a thing.
Yeah,
Like
I see. Okay.
that starts to be, then it's almost like, well, yeah, I got up, but it was just for this. So, type of a thing.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so we realized it's like, okay, I know it's my night to be on. Like I can kind of mentally prep. And then when it's not your night, like then you can get like that good, like try to get as much sleep as possible.
That's a good call. Yeah.
And just like, yeah, some nights are going to be lighter than or more than the other. And it's just like, it's a roll of the dice at that point, but making sure like at least one person is getting some good sleep too. Like you just want to make sure like, you have that, because you don't want both of you to be like on edge, because it's just like, oh, that night really sucked. Like, so,
right.
But
that's a good call. I'm taking that one. Yeah, for sure. I'm taking that.
My mom always would tell me too. She goes, just be regular around the baby when the baby's sleeping. Like, don't try to be extra quiet, because the baby's going to learn how to sleep when it's loud. She says she's with your older brother, I was super quiet all the time. He was such a light sleeper. She said, with you, I would hold you sleeping and be vacuuming at the same time. Like,
it's a good. Yeah. Well, so my buddy Colin. So I asked for a while. I was asking everyone like, what's the thing that, because you'll buy all kinds of baby stuff, and everyone's like, you're not going to use like,
oh yeah,
all the like. So I was asking people like, what are the essentials? And the one I kept hearing was Snoo, which we got one of those.
What is that?
Like it's like a bassinet that like is like it monitors their sleep, and it turns on and makes like womb sounds. It's like it kind of like does exactly what it needs to based on what the baby's doing. But my buddy Colin recommended this thing called Hatch, which is like a glorified white noise machine, but it also like I think throughout the night it turns colors, so like they'll know if it's like, okay, it starts red and then goes like purple and then like slowly starts to blue, and like morning is whatever color it is, green. But the kid will also start to like associate like what color the room is, be like, oh no, it's not like time yet.
Oh yeah.
But the white noise has been a recurring thing that people like do, just blast white noise, because they're like it can't be too loud, like because kids will wake up. So
I got used to sleeping with white noise because you have your baby monitor on, and then like all that. And so I remember when we took the baby monitor out of my kid's room, like it was just like I need something now.
I didn't realize. My buddy told me that when little kids are sleeping, like at the infant stage, he's like, they just sleep like little goblins. They just like, they're gonna be like as they're sleeping, they're just making sounds the whole time. He's like, so I'm blasting white noise for myself because this kid, the kid's sleeping, but they're just never not making noise. And I was like, oh, that sounds great.
Dude, when we had our first kid, we were just like, hey, we're just gonna use this little bouncy sit thingy, and that will be the only thing in the house, right? And because we were just like, I don't want to have a bunch of toys, I don't want to have a bunch of shit all over the place, like all this type of stuff, right? And then like 4 days in, I'm at Target just buying like every fucking like swing, anything, because she wouldn't take she'd just cry whenever we put her down, like for different, and it was just, I was like, there's got to be something. Then there was a swing that we got that like I was like perfect, and it
the
just
swings are good.
I just set one of those up yesterday,
and it was just like that was the spot, and that was it. But I remember it clear as day. Like we had this shitty little like, and it was super small because we were just like, we just don't want baby stuff taking over our house. And then like a few days later, we just had this massive ass swing in there, but it's like she naps really good in it. And like, yeah, like what, like, I don't even think you're supposed to do that now, but it's no, that it's amazing how your priorities change. Like after a couple nights of just like, nothing's like, that's frustrating too. Like you get it with animals, they can't communicate with you, but like babies not being able to, they're, you look just like us, but we can't, like, we don't know what's going on inside your head. It's just like, all right. So, but
the most frustrating part is when eating or sleeping or even when you're training to go to the bathroom, like you slept perfectly fine like this yesterday. Everything's exactly the same, and you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
Or like they just do not care. Like, oh yeah, okay. Well, you did that thing for me yesterday. Well, guess what? It's not going to work, and neither is anything else today. So sorry.
Yeah, I'm anticipating those. I hope that new works, but Jimmy, to your point, we've accepted the fact that like we're gonna just have to. We don't know what kind of hard lines we're gonna draw on anything, you know, because we have other friends that are also, you know, having kids, and they'll tell us, they're like, we're not giving our kid an iPad, period. And I'm like, you don't know. You're like, I've heard so many parents say stuff like that, you know, like my intention would be for sure, I don't want Jane like engulfed with technology all the time or whatever. And ideally, if I can get her to play with old toys or read books or whatever, engage, then great. But like, you have no idea what you're going to do until like you see how your kid rolls and like when you need time and what works.
That's the biggest thing. It's like when you and your wife need time, right? Like when it's like, hey, I just need like a second, like I need a break, right? Like I need like, let's find something, right? And so that's kind of where it's just like, here, check this, you know,
grab the tablet
at that age, but it's just like, here, get on your iPad, like go check this thing out or do whatever. You just, you never know until you get in that situation what you guys actually need.
Well, and how many hours of Nintendo did you play a day?
I know.
Dude, I mean, that's all I was doing. Yeah. It's my parents are probably like, fine, whatever.
Yeah. No matter the lines you draw, grandparents mess them up anyway, because they're grandparents. And that's, I had, it wasn't like a fight with my parents or with my mom, but basically my mom's telling me, hey, you can't tell me how to be a grandparent. Like I'll make sure they're safe, and they're always gonna be safe with me. But you can't have everything super structured, because that's not how, it's not going to work. And she's right. My grandma was the same way. She spoiled us. She gave us money. She gave us candy. We ate junk all the time, you know, and that's just how it's going to be. So, and when they're over there, Mateo plays Nintendo a lot. Lillian will be on an iPad or watch a movie, but they also will go outside and play with my parents and, you know, draw with chalk and all that stuff. So that after a while, it's like, you're right, Mom. Like as long as they're eating and as long as they're safe, like you're 100% correct. I can't tell you how to be a grandparent.
Yeah, as much things as you want to control, like at the end of it, like you realize you're not as in control sometimes as you'd like to be, but that's okay.
I'll tell you the one hard line that we have, and it has stuck and it will stick. This is a slime free house. No slime at all. That they don't.
Okay, I didn't realize that slime.
Dude, I'm telling you, slime is it's one thing to play on a counter, cool. If it gets in your clothes, it's not coming out. Carpet, couch, it's not happening. They get enough slime at my parents' house. They make it over there, and it's a disaster. They have special. I gave them here's some old work shirts. Wear these when you play with slime. Otherwise, do what you want to do, but it does not come home because it is not something I want to mess with.
Yeah,
those are like the go to the in-law or go to the my in-laws house. Yes. Like whenever we'll get like birthdays, it's like, here's a slime kit. It's like, hey, that'll be really fun to do. grandmas.
Slime. Yeah, man. Yeah, well, cool. Slime is. I'll be on the lookout. But it's gonna be interesting because Brittany's mom lives like within about an hour's drive, and we'll see how that changes. She's very, very excited to be grandparent, and then my parents are back in Ohio. So my niece and nephew. My nephew's on the spectrum, and so far he's nonverbal, and so he's there's some behavioral challenges that come like that with that for my sister. So they live in West Virginia. My mom will take my niece a lot. And so she kind of like when you're taking grandchildren for like weeks at a time, you do have to develop your own like structures and turn into like a disciplinarian and like more of a parent, because you can't just play that role. So I've already kind of told my grandparent or my parents, like with my kids, I'd like it more if like you're the vacation grandparents, because you don't have to take on the responsibilities. You have to do it with the other ones. So you can be the ones that are just like, yeah, we're here. You get all this stuff. And it's like, because you deserve that. You don't get to do that much on the other side, and to try to like play any other role when it's going to be less frequent, being 2,500 miles away. I think that'd be good for him.
Yeah, I always felt bad for Andrew's mom because she took care of our kids. While we were at work, she raised them until they were school age, so she could. I mean, she does a good job, but she had to be more of a parent because they were with her, 8-9 hours. So there's feeding schedules and she was like teaching them things like ABCs and their numbers and all this. Like, she was a parent, and so and she still did grandma stuff, which is fine. That's what you're supposed to do. But I always felt bad because she couldn't just like let loose and just like do whatever you want, because that's how my parents like that.
So I think they'll appreciate that. I think they'll like playing that role, but we'll see. We'll see how it unravels.
Yeah. So when is Jane due?
September 7th.
Okay. All right.
So we'll see. Brittany's super small. She's like 5 foot. She was 103 pounds when she got pregnant. And so I told her, I'm like, you're like Manhattan. Like you can only build out now. Like everything, like anything out is that real estate's gone. And so we're hoping it'll be a little earlier because she's getting really uncomfortable.
Sure.
So, and we've still got, a couple months to go here.
Yeah. Well, that's my mom's 5'2", and I ended up being almost 11 pounds. So
11 pounds? Are you serious?
Almost. Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, that's enormous. I think I was like 8'9". Jimmy, what were you?
I have no fucking idea, but George, eye contact. Don't go down. I mean, that's
what?
11 pounds. I mean, Jesus Christ.
I used to have a joke about that. I was like, when I said, people would gasp. I was like, almost 11 pounds. I pretty much destroyed whatever my mom had going on down there.
11 pounds, dude. 11 pounds. Dude, did you just come out and go like right to first grade? That's an unbelievably big baby.
And then my sister, a year and a half later, I don't think she was even 6 pounds. So that my mom was like, that was an easy birth.
Yeah. Wow, man, that's great. Yeah, when you were talking about your mom, drawing a hard line, you're not going to tell me blah blah. It reminded me of my favorite moment in your guys' podcast. Easily, I think my favorite exchange between you two was, Jimmy, you were talking about something happened in high school, or maybe it was hypothetical. Like, if I got in this situation with my dad, I'd tell him like, "Hey, man,
I know exactly the story.
I don't want to talk about this right now." And my dad would like give me some time to cool off. Lorenzo's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, if I told my dad I don't want to talk about this right now, my dad would be like, "Oh, that's cool. We're talking about this right now, like for as long as I say." And I think it resonated with me because I was thinking the same thing. If I told my dad, like, he's like, "I'll talk to you till 3 a.m." Like, and you'll just sit there and nod.
Dude, speaking of, like, I was thinking about it today because I was like, not that I get upset with my kids and stuff, and it's just like, okay, I don't want to like come off as like this big asshole and like, whatever, they're kids, right? And so I was actually thinking about my dad this week because it's like never once raised his voice or at me or anyone. It was just like super calm. I have no idea how the hell he was able to do that.
That's
because
amazing.
Like it just was just and I have no idea, because in my head I was just like, I would love to be able just to be, because it's a total mind fuck, right? Like it's like just yell at me, just like, hey, like get it out. And then it's just like, we can go through it. And then it's like squashed, right? It's very much just a very calm, just like, this is this, like going through stuff. And I was just like, that's, it hit home so much harder. And because in my head, I'm like, how can I try to get to that point where it's just like, all right, even keel, just like I want to have a conversation. I want to get this through, like make my point, because those things stuck with me. Like, how can I try to be like, and like trying to keep that in the back of my head when I'm like, what the hell are you thinking? Like when
It's
like
so difficult.
the kids do stupid stuff,
It's so difficult.
so difficult. And I'm just like, yeah, because like whenever I lose it for a second, I'm just like, how the hell was my dad able to keep that level of just like composure and calmness through that part? Like,
it could be like totally nature though, I mean, I'm sure your dad being on the school board and stuff had an amazing experience getting like reamed and having to stay like professional and calm and make like, decisions that benefited everybody. But at the same time, like I've never seen my dad cry before ever, I'm 37.
Yeah.
And we, definitely he's gone through some emotional situations. But I get emotional all the time, and I think like his ability, he's not sitting there consciously being like, and I'm like, oh, how could I do that? How could I like, I think maybe like just people have reactions to things that like your dad might've just been like a super balanced dude, but I'm sure there's things that you could do to emulate those strategies sometimes. But I think if you yell or you get like to that level, you might just like, that just might be your science,
Yeah. I it's just definitely, and it's weird because my mom was a complete opposite. Like she just kind of like, she'll yell or like get upset and stuff. But it's just like, because I was just like, how can I get through to my kids better? Like, how can I make this stick? Right. And just like reflecting in different things, I was just like, how can I not lose my cool at all? Not that like I go crazy, right? But it's just like, I feel like it was such an effective tactic that he had. I was just like, how can I do that? But like, maybe that's the way to do it. So it's just something you talking about that, and because that's definitely was his react. Like he was just like, okay, like we just won't talk about it that like that.
That's I mean, dude, respect.
Yeah.
All right, so at what point do you feel in parenting for both of you, like I'm sure there's a time period where it's almost like a puppy. You just go like, no, like, and an explanation isn't going to carry over right now because you're so young. I just got to tell you, like, don't try to get to the chemicals under the sink or whatever. But at what point do you start, like you're saying, I'm trying to get through, like I'm trying to instill the reason you can't do that is because it has this impact, or empathetically, like you're hurting this person's, or whatever it is, like the ration that you start trying to attach the rationale and hope that they're going to go, oh, okay, I get why that's wrong.
I think once they start associating with people outside of your family, like school stuff, because you might do stuff way different in your family compared to other people, but when you get outside in public, there's a public sense of like, this is what you're supposed to do. Everyone's supposed to do these things or react this way or whatever, and also I always tell myself, like, I'm not gonna, when my kids ask a question or, hey, why are we doing this, I'm not just say because I'm the dad. Like I want to give them a reason, but then I don't always succeed at that, because when they ask the same damn question over and over and I've already given a reason, you're like, no, just
I can't remember if there was a comic that said this directly or if you and I have, but I remember somebody who gave the example of like, put your shoes on or something like that. And I think maybe it was Louis C.K. That was you envision that as a parent, you're going to be like, well, because if you don't, we're going out to, your feet could get cold, your feet could get hurt. And, people to go in the stores, you need shoes on. But like the kids, like you tell them the third time, put your shoes on, we got to go. They go, why? Because put your shoes on. Like, that's it. Like that, I'm not telling, just do it. In some situations, you're worn out on explaining.
Yeah. And then, you try, and you try to see if they understand too. Like, are you even listening to what I'm saying? Or can I just not have this lesson right now? Like what's, that's why I think it's once they get into school, because that's what you do in school anyway. You're learning, you're so let's learn other things, outside of that.
Well, in elementary age, dude, I like living in a zoo. Apparently, there's
another.
So there's that I found with elementary kids, you can find how much they care about what they're bothering you about if you flip it back on them and you find how much they have to say about it. Like, why is that way? And you're like, why do you think it's that way? And they're like, I don't know. You're just like, okay, well, yeah, you don't give a shit. Like, I'm not gonna sit there and explain. I mean, like, you're just asking me questions. So I plan to do that quite a bit. And if she's like, well, I thought about it, and I thought it might have been this. Is that correct? I'd be like, okay, cool. I got an answer for you. You do care, but if you're just like, it's like, okay, well, then, you're not even probably gonna listen to my answer.
I think once your kids start to have friends, like that's it's just like that's when it's kind of you can start to have more of those conversations with them just to make sure like they can start to see how how this might affect other people around them and not just you and like everything else. Like that starts to hit home, I feel like, more, and they kind of get like it kind of clicks more than just like, well, because I said so or whatever it is. But
okay, so now I'm so excited to get the answer to you without giving names, just as a yes or no question out of curiosity. Do your kids have friends that you don't like?
Oh yeah,
100%.
I would like it better if it wasn't because you're like, oh, he's not a good influence. You're just like, I just don't. He's a wiener. I don't like that. I don't like that. But that's. I'm sure you can't go into too many details, but I'm curious why.
And like early on too, it's a lot of the parents. It's just
Well, there's a comedian that said a joke about that too. Like, wait, I got to be friends with their parents because you guys are friends. I don't. Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. That. I mean, I'm for sure, and I imagine there's probably a line where you draw sometimes where you see like a person's parenting style that if you're already not like sure about the friendship, or that you're kind of like, you're probably not actually going to be around this family.
Yeah.
Much.
Oh, for sure. And it's a lot. It's weird too, because like a lot of the times, especially younger age, like you are just hanging out with the parents, because when your kids get together, obviously like you're taking them all to the park, or you're taking like, and everybody's just kind of hanging out there and stuff. So it's no, you start to see real quick, like, okay, I just don't want my kid like around this kid because they're just like a complete dick, even to like their parents. Like it's just like, I don't want that to be like.
He's 6.
So
what happens?
It's 6, but dude, you'll be surprised. Like you'll just be
like, no, dude, I know. I worked with kids. I've definitely, there's definitely kids that I was like, that kid is not like. I do not enjoy speaking with this human.
Or there'll be a dad like, hey, our kids really hang out. Maybe we should hang out sometime. Bring the wife over.
Maybe.
Or they should just be friends.
Lucky, man. There's a couple that we're friends with, and I mean, we're really good organic friends with these people. Like we hang out all the time, and they got pregnant 6 weeks after us.
Oh, nice.
So nice. They're 6 weeks behind. So so we really lucked out. And so it's gonna be a boy and a girl too.
That's awesome.
I think it'd also be worse if you're like, you're gonna go over this new friend you just made, and their parents are awesome, and then your kid doesn't like their kid, and you're like, great,
dude, just give him a chance. Peter's fine. Peter smells. Just
I know he bites.
For me,
just chill.
We'll get you armor. We'll get you chain link. We'll be fine.
Well,
good times.
Yeah. We did a lot of gopher talk and then parent talk. This is perfect. What a great
40 minutes.
What a great dad episode. So I know there is no, and if the answer is no, that's fine. Does anybody have a dad joke that they want to share?
Yeah, I do have a dad joke that I want to share.
Okay, guest, hit it up.
So a lady walks into a bank. Her name's Patty Black, and she sits down in front of a loan officer, and she's like, I need a loan. And I'm going to start this joke again. I know this. Hold on. A frog walks into a bank.
This is perfect.
Yeah. I just heard this. Like, I just recalled this the other day. I was trying to tell it in the car to my wife, and I was like, oh man, that is probably like all-time 10 best dad jokes, but it's complicated. Okay, got it. A frog walks into a bank, sits in front of a loan officer. Her name's Patty Black. And he says, I need a loan. And Patty Black goes, okay, well, do you have any credit? Do you have any like cosigners? And the frog's like, no. The frog goes, well, do you have any collateral? And then pulls out like this little tea set that's broken up into all these different pieces. And she goes, okay, not sure about that. You sure there's no one that would cosign for you, a family member or something like that? The frog goes, well, my dad's Mick Jagger. And then Patty Black's like, your dad's Mick Jagger? Okay, hang on, let me go talk to the manager. So she goes into the back. She goes, hey, there's a frog out there with a tea set. Says her dad's Mick Jagger, wants some money. The bank officer puts his head out and looks and goes, oh, you brought a tea set, huh? She goes, yeah, why a tea set? She goes, that's a knick-knack, Patty Black. Give the frog alone. His old man's a Rolling Stone. That's it. Thanks. I got it eventually. Dude, actually, my favorite dad joke that I've ever seen anybody do was just my friend's dad. Actually, we were in the store and there's a ceiling fan above him. And he goes, oh, you're a ceiling fan? Name 3 ceilings. Like, that was...
Name 3 ceilings.
Yeah.
God dang.
Jimmy, I feel like you got one.
I don't. I'm terrible at dad jokes.
No, I had this boss. This isn't a joke. This is something that just some stupid dad thing he would do. But years ago, I had this boss, and every time we'd be driving to a job site and someone's at the time of the year, we see a lot of straw and hay being driven around, transported. Like we'd be talking or whatever and just interrupt. If I'm talking, just interrupts. He goes, hey. I'm like, what? He just points to some hay. I'm like, God dang it, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get old.
Yeah, that was good.
Well,
I love that. I like the ceiling, man. That was good.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Put it in your pocket. And you don't have to start it again halfway through.
Yeah.
That's part about that joke.
Hey, that's happened before on the podcast. So
yeah,
we're good.
Yeah. I don't know what you open the door to tell a joke. I'm like, well, what's the most complicated, hard to recite one that I can think of off the
that I just learned.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. Thanks for the good advice, guys.
Yeah, man, it was great. Thanks for hopping in here, and Tyler, no thanks to you ever. You're I don't even know if you're coming back on the podcast. So
yeah,
double bird.
Enjoy your Chick-fil-A
at a 50th birthday.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right. Good talking to you guys.
Yeah. See ya.
Later.